Ask people to hold their questions. We'll hear from each of the panelists on this particular topic and then open it up for questions before we move forward. So moving now to Sheriff Elfo. So based on your professional experience and your knowledge of immigration issues, what do you believe are the major barriers to immigration reform at this time? Please speak to the question from the perspective of local and state law enforcement. And also, if you wish to comment on the matter relative to border issues, you're welcome to do so. Another way to look at it is what barriers are created locally here by the lack of immigration reform.
Well, I think the professor spoke very eloquently on dysfunction in the Congress and lack of leadership to address issues. So I'm not the political science expert, but I will talk about how some of these barriers impact our local community. As sheriff, I could speak to the effect that a lack of clear policy has for law enforcement and public safety, and does not make us safe. Immigration law and its enforcement are primarily a federal responsibility. And I appreciate the dangerous and difficult job that our Border Patrol agents perform in protecting our borders from terrorism, drug trafficking, and violence. They do not make the law, they enforce the law in light of policies that are dictated from Washington, D.C. at high levels. The federal government has not adopted clear and consistent policies when it comes to the enforcement of the immigration law. We see dangerous and career criminals who have entered this country illegally and who commit crime and remain in our community. We have violent gang members in our community that have done everything from drive-by shootings to serious assaults to attempted murder that are still here after their court cases have been disposed of. And at the same time, we've seen honor students picked up at the high school and put into deportation. People are frustrated at the inconsistent results, and as such, the public has demanded that now that local law enforcement insert themselves into enforcing immigration laws, and I think that's bad policy. States are contemplating and adopting laws that require local and state police to take larger roles in the immigration of the enforcement of immigration laws. That's not happening in Washington, but there are political movements in Washington trying to put that burden on local law enforcement. Some jurisdictions have taken more of a direct role in immigration enforcement and have allowed their local officers to be deputized as de facto immigration agents. And that creates, I think, a lot of problems for the safety of our community. We have many undocumented people living in our state who are fearful of immigration-related enforcement and live in fear, which may be real, in some cases it may be imagined. Due to their fear of potential immigration consequences, they do not step forward to provide information or to cooperate with law enforcement that could be helpful in capturing criminals, preventing terrorism, and making our communities safer. Due to their fear, they often do not report their own victimization and that of their families, and as a result, they are exploited by those who take advantage of this situation. And that could range everything from domestic violence, child abuse, child rape, human trafficking, and slavery. Crimes like this often go unreported to law enforcement because the victims are fearful to come forward because they fear they're going to suffer immigration consequences. The sheriff is the chief law enforcement officer of the county and is elected by the people. Now, I'll tell you what my position is on it. Again, immigration issues are a federal responsibility, not a state or local responsibility. If I were to divert our very limited and dwindling resources into enforcing immigration laws, we would be hampered in our primary role of enforcing the criminal laws and the laws that relate to traffic safety. Those are and preventing terrorism. That is our major mission of the sheriff's office. We work hard to build relations within the community so people can feel safe in coming forward and helping us do our job. If they remain scared of local law enforcement, we cannot achieve our vision of making Whatcom County the safest in the state through excellence in public safety. As former president of the Washington State Sheriff's Association, our association adopted a resolution unanimously in Washington State opposing county sheriff's offices from immersing themselves into immigration enforcement. I don't think there's a sheriff's office in the state that has allowed their deputies to take on the role of de facto immigration agents that is allowed in law. I'm also a member of the National Sheriff's Association, and that is not the position of all sheriffs across the country. We see in other states where they're actually clamoring and want more power to enforce the immigration laws. In Whatcom County, I have 83 deputies. I have hiring freezes. I'm not able to fill spots because of the lack of resources. When someone leaves, their positions become frozen. If someone calls out sick, I can't backfill the positions because I don't have overtime. We just cannot take on enforcing immigration laws for that reason as well. We need to have a good relationship, however, with our federal partners to keep our borders and communities safe. Cocaine trafficking is a huge problem in Whatcom County. Over the last 2 months, we've seized $2 million worth of cocaine traveling north on I-5. And when you have cocaine trafficking going on in your community, everyone's exposed to violence. We've seen an increase in gang activity from every type of gang imaginable. We have firearms trafficking in Whatcom County. In February, deputies raided a warehouse in Ferndale and arrested an international arms dealer that was wanted for Interpol in Denmark for smuggling firearms. And these are sophisticated military weapons with scopes. We've had terrorists captured here in Washington State at the border. And we have a lot of vulnerable critical infrastructure in Whatcom County. We supply 40% of the power for the city of Seattle from the New Halem-Diablo Skagit River project. We have 2 refineries. We have butane and propane storage facilities. That's what local law enforcement needs to be doing, is protecting that critical infrastructure. We do work well with the Border Patrol. Recently, we had a tragic situation where one of my deputies was assaulted, received a brain injury when he was attacked by an individual armed with a hammer, and Border Patrol agents saved our deputy's life. So we do have a very close working relationship. We do have federal agents that come to our jail. They scour the public records, and they identify what the law defines as a criminal alien. And those who have been convicted of committing serious crimes in the United States. And when they're released from jail, they do take them into custody. I support the federal government's role in this, but with limited jail resources, it is one that I am not willing to perform on behalf of Whatcom County. There's been a suggestion that local jails and deputies working in the jails take on the role of looking into someone's immigration status while they're incarcerated. We simply do not have the resources to do that. That's a federal responsibility. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Joe.